Hey there, welcome to the channel. If you're looking for the perfect way to unwind and drift off to sleep, you're in the right place. Tonight, we've got a whole hour of some of the most interesting and emotional Reddit stories from crazy family. Dramas to heartwarming moments to help you relax and escape the day. So get comfortable, let go of your worries, and let these stories carry you into a peaceful sleep. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy this, and make sure to subscribe for more stories to relax to in the future. Now let's get started and dive into tonight's tales. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's fall asleep together. Enjoy. Am I the a-hole for purposely ruining my best friend's proposal after he sabotaged my engagement a year ago? I, 29F, had a best friend, Tom, 30ME, or at least I thought he was my best friend. We met in college, bonded over music, late night, study sessions, and an intense love for sarcasm. Over the years, he became like a brother to me. We were inseparable. People used to joke that we'd end up together, but it was always platonic. He's straight, I'm straight, but we never crossed that line. We even dated other people while being close, and there was never an issue. Until I met Eli. 31M, is now my fiancé. We've been together for 3 years, and he's the kindest, most emotionally intelligent guy I've ever known. But Tom, never liked him. At first I thought it was just a protective friend thing, but it became clear over time that Tom just did not want me to be with Eli. He'd make passive-aggressive comments, question Eli's intentions, bring up things from his past that he barely knew about, and even once told me, "You're changing too much and not in a good way." About a year ago, Eli planned an elaborate proposal, a picnic at our favorite park with a hidden photographer, fairy lights, the works. Tom found out about it through mutual friends and decided to crash it as a joke. Except it wasn't funny. He showed up during the proposal, pretended not to know what was going on, and started shouting things like, "Wait, are you serious? You're actually proposing right now?" in the middle of it. Eli tried to keep his composure, but the mood was ruined. I was embarrassed, shocked, and honestly, heartbroken. Afterward, I confronted Tom, and he brushed it off like it was nothing. "You'll laugh about this one day," he said. I didn't. I stopped talking to him for a while, and our friendship never fully recovered. He sent a half-assed apology a month later, but by then I was done pretending that he hadn't made it about him on my big moment. Now here's where it gets messy. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. Tom reached out to me and said he wanted to catch up. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We got coffee, and during that chat, he let it slip that he was planning to propose to his girlfriend Sophie during her birthday dinner, which I was invited to. He was all excited about this rooftop restaurant, live music, the perfect sunset proposal, and he asked me for help coordinating with the venue staff. I smiled and agreed. But inside, I remembered every second of my ruined proposal. I remembered crying that night, trying to laugh it off while feeling humiliated in front of the people I loved. And something in me snapped. I didn't go nuclear, I didn't sabotage the whole dinner, but I did just enough. First, I told Sophie's sister, who I'm friendly with, about the proposal, casually, like she already knew. She didn't. Turns out, Sophie had specifically told her family she did not want a public proposal. She has anxiety, hates being the center of attention, and always dreamed of a quiet, private moment. Then, the day of the dinner, I accidentally let it slip to Sophie that she looked amazing, almost like you're about to get proposed to. The look on her face said it all. Dinner happened. Tension was high. Tom started giving a speech, and Sophie, clearly aware of what was coming, stopped him mid-sentence and said, "Please don't do this in front of everyone." Tom was stunned. The moment was completely derailed. He mumbled something and sat down. The rest of the night was painfully awkward. Sophie broke up with him 3 days later. Not just because of the proposal, she apparently had been unsure for a while, but she told her friends that the proposal fiasco made her realize he didn't listen to her needs at all. Tom is now furious. He found out that I warned Sophie and her sister, and he texted me, "You always wanted to ruin my life. You're jealous, I hope you're proud." I haven't responded. Eli thinks what I did was petty but justified. My closest friends are split. Some think I stooped to his level. Others say I just returned the favor. One even said, "You gave him a mirror. He just didn't like what he saw." Now I'm torn. I never wanted to destroy someone's relationship. But did I just do what he did to me? And if so, does that make me the a-hole? So, am I the a-hole for ruining my best friend's proposal after he ruined mine? Am I the a-hole for deleting my friend's wedding photos after she refused to pay me or feed me at the event? So I, 28M, do photography as a side hustle. It's not my main job, but I'm decent at it. I've done senior portraits, engagement, shoots, even a few small weddings. I mostly do it on weekends for extra money and because I genuinely enjoy it. A few months ago, my friend Amanda, 27F, asked me if I'd be willing to shoot her wedding. Now, Amanda and I go back to college. We're never super close, but we've always been friendly. Shared a few classes, partied together, kept in touch online. She said she was on a tight budget and couldn't afford a professional, and since I always post cool shots on Instagram, she figured I'd be perfect. I told her I usually charge $50 for events, but since it was her wedding, and I knew her, I'd do it for $250 for the whole day, about 10 hours, just to cover my time and editing. She agreed and said, "That's so generous, thank you." The wedding day comes. It's at this barn-turned venue an hour outside the city. I show up around 11 a.m. By 1 p.m. it's nearly 90-degree weather outside, and I'm already sweating buckets, running around getting shots of the dress, the decorations, the bridal party getting ready. It's exhausting. Not just snapping photos, but posing people, coordinating the bridal party, dodging guests, constantly adjusting for lighting. I asked Amanda around 3 p.m. if I could take a break and grab some water or food. She flatly said, "Oh, we didn't budget for an extra plate for you." I said I'd just eat whatever the staff had or grab something nearby. She said, "No, you're working. You need to be on call in case we need photos." So I stood around awkwardly, while everyone else ate. No food, no water. I didn't bring my own because I figured they'd at least let me have a bottle of water. I was lightheaded, hungry, and starting to get dizzy. I asked one of the caterers if I could just have a soda, and Amanda came over and told me, "Don't start making demands, you're not a guest." I just snapped. I told her I'd had enough. I'd been working non-stop for 6 hours with nothing to eat or drink, and if I wasn't even going to be treated like a human being, I was done. She said, "Fine, if you can't handle it, then just leave." So I did. But before I left, I deleted all the photos I had taken that day right in front of her. She gasped and screamed, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "You told me to leave. This was a job. You didn't pay me. You didn't feed me. You didn't treat me like a human. So this job is cancelled." And I walked out. That night she blew up my phone. I ignored it. The next day she sent me a long, furious message saying I had ruined her wedding, that I was selfish, unprofessional, and vindictive. She also posted about it on social media, making vague accusations that a so-called friend destroyed my special day out of spite. Several of our mutual friends messaged me saying I went too far, that I could have just sent the unedited photos, or at least backed them up before deleting them. Here's the thing. I get it. It was her wedding. A big deal. But it was also my time, my labor, and my dignity. She didn't treat me like a professional or even like a friend. She saw me as free labor. And honestly, if she had just said, "Hey, we don't have food for you, but please feel free to take a break," I would have been fine. Instead, I was humiliated and dismissed like a servant. So, am I the a-hole for deleting her wedding photos when she refused to pay me or even let me eat? Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for a new wedding dress after my future Emil tried on and ripped mine without asking? I, 30F, am getting married this September to my fiancé, Jake, 32M. We've been together for 5 years, and while I love him deeply, his mum, Margaret, has been a constant challenge. Margaret has this odd relationship with Jake. She treats him like he's still a little boy and seems to think no woman will ever be good enough. She's always inserting herself into wedding planning, making comments like, "Well, when I got married, we did this," or "A real wedding should have a traditional church ceremony, not some field with fairy lights." Yes, we're doing an outdoor ceremony. I've tolerated her, tried to keep the peace, but what happened 2 weeks ago may have nuked that bridge. Forever. My wedding dress is everything to me. I spent months looking, and when I finally found it, a beautiful vintage-inspired lace gown, I cried. My late grandmother always wanted to see me get married, and I had a piece of her veil sewn into the lining of the dress. It's more than just fabric, it's sentimental. The dress was being kept at our home, in a zipped garment bag hanging in the guest bedroom closet. No one was allowed to touch it. Jake knew this, I made it very clear. Well, 2 weeks ago, Jake invited Margaret over while I was at work because she wanted to go over flower arrangements. I got home, and immediately, something felt off. The guest bedroom door was ajar and the garment bag was unzipped. The dress was gone. I panicked. I called Jake and he said, "Don't worry, Mum just wanted to see it." See it? I ran to the living room and nearly passed out. Margaret was wearing my dress, full on, zipped up, walking around in it. She's shorter than me and curvier. And as I watched, something terrible happened. She bent over to adjust her heel and the dress ripped down the back. A massive tear right through the delicate lace. I screamed. Margaret gasped and tried to play it off. "Oh, honey, calm down. It's just a dress. It can be fixed." I was livid. I told her to get out, right that second. Jake tried to mediate, saying I was overreacting and that she didn't mean to rip it. I locked myself in the bedroom and sobbed. The next day I took the dress to the bridal boutique. They said the tear was severe. It could be repaired, but it wouldn't look the same. The lace was custom, and replacing it would require remaking. A significant portion of the gown. The repair estimate? Under $200. When I told Jake, he said Margaret offered to pay a few hundred toward it, but didn't think she should cover the whole cost since it was an accident. I told him she had no right to even touch the dress, let alone put it on. He said I was being unfair, and that I should be grateful it happened now and not on the wedding day. I told him unless Margaret paid every single dollar to fix or replace the dress, she was uninvited from the wedding. Now everyone in his family is calling me the a-hole. They say I'm punishing an old woman for a mistake, that it wasn't malicious, and that Margaret just wanted to feel beautiful again. One of his aunts even said, "It was like she was reliving her own wedding day. You should feel honored." I feel sick. I've since moved the dress to a friend's house for safekeeping and started rethinking this wedding entirely. Jake says I'm creating division and shouldn't make him choose between me and his mum. So now I'm wondering, am I the a-hole for demanding my future MIL pay for the dress she ruined and threatening to uninvite her if she doesn't? Am I the a-hole for exposing my roommate for lying about the rent and making her pay me back? 26F, have been living with my roommate Leah, 27F, for almost 3 years. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a great location, close to downtown, safe area, good public transit. The apartment is in Leah's name because her uncle owns the building. He offered her a good deal on rent when she moved in, and when I needed a place, she offered the 2nd bedroom. I moved in a few months later. From day one, she told me my half of the rent was $950. It was steep for me, but still cheaper than anything else I could find in the area, and I trusted her. She said the total rent was $1,900, and we'd split it, down the middle. I never questioned it. I sent her my half like clockwork on the 1st of every month. Fast forward to a couple months ago, I was chatting with her uncle at a small gathering. He's a nice guy, and we ended up talking about how much rents have gone up. I half joked and said, "Well, at least Leah's rent hasn't gone up since I moved in, right?" And he looked confused. He goes, "Oh, I actually lowered Leah's rent last year. She pays $1,300 total now as a favor for helping me manage a few things in the building." My stomach sank. I played it cool, but inside I was raging. That means for the past year, she'd been collecting $950 from me, while paying only $1,300 total. That means I was covering almost 3/4 of the rent, and she was pocketing the difference. Almost $600 a month, for a whole year. That's over $7,000. The more I thought about it, the more furious I got. I had gone into credit card debt during that time because of rising prices. I skipped vacations, missed weddings, and had to work extra shifts while she was going out every weekend, buying new furniture, and acting like she was just as broke as me. So I confronted her. I waited until we were both home, sat her down and calmly explained what I'd found out. She immediately got defensive. Her first response was, "You weren't supposed to talk to my uncle about that." Then it was, "You agreed to that amount, so it's not my fault." And then she said, "You're living here, aren't you? So, what does it matter?" I told her it mattered because she lied. She manipulated me into thinking I was paying half when I was actually covering most of the rent. She made me believe we were equals in the apartment when she was profiting off me. She finally admitted she kept the money but said she needed it, and it's not like I'm rich or anything. I told her she had two options: start splitting the actual rent immediately and pay me back half the difference from the past year. I move out and take her to small claims court. She flipped, said I was being petty, vindictive, and acting like a landlord. I told her landlords don't get scammed out of $7,000 by people they trust. She slammed the door and didn't speak to me for 2 days. In the end, she agreed to reduce my rent to reflect the actual split, $650 each, but refused to pay me back anything. I moved out a few weeks later and filed in small claims. I have texts where she admits to keeping the money and proof of all my bank transfers. Now she's telling our mutual friends I'm suing her over a misunderstanding and making a big deal out of something I agreed to. Some of our friends are saying I should let it go, that I did live there, and that suing her is overkill. But others say what she did was straight-up theft and that she deserves the consequences. So, am I the a-hole for exposing my roommate, for lying about the rent and demanding the money back? Am I the a-hole for refusing to invite my dad's wife and her kids to my wedding, even though it means he won't come? I, 28F, am getting married this summer to my amazing fiancé, Liam, 30M. We've been together for 5 years, and after postponing due to COVID and some financial stuff, we're finally tying the knot. We're planning a small but meaningful wedding, around 80 people, mostly close friends and immediate family. But there's been a major issue with my dad and his new wife that has completely turned things upside down. My parents divorced when I was 14. My dad cheated on my mom with a woman named Jenna, who at the time was 26. He was 45. It devastated my mom. She fell into a deep depression, and I had to grow up fast, taking care of her and trying to manage school at the same time. My relationship with my dad never recovered after that. I still saw him occasionally, but it was strained. He moved in with Jenna pretty quickly, and they got married a couple of years later. She has 2 kids from a previous relationship, Caden, now 18, and Emily, now 16. Over the years, my dad has pushed hard for me to accept Jenna and her kids as my family. I've always kept things polite, but I never bonded with them. And I never considered Jenna anything close to a stepmother. She was the woman he left my mom for, and it's impossible to separate that from her identity in my life. Fast forward to now. I'm planning my wedding, and naturally I invited my dad, but I did not invite Jenna or her kids. I felt this was the best way to avoid stress, especially for my mum, who is going to be there and already struggles with anxiety. I don't want her to feel uncomfortable at what should be a joyful event, and honestly, I just don't want Jenna at my wedding. She's never been a part of my life in any meaningful way, and her kids are practically strangers to me. When my dad received the invitation and saw that Jenna and her kids weren't included, he called me immediately, furious. He said it was disrespectful, and that I was treating Jenna like some mistress, which in his words she hasn't been in over a decade. He told me I was being petty and immature, and that I was punishing him for something that happened when I was a teenager. I calmly told him that this was my wedding, and that I was trying to create a peaceful environment where everyone would feel safe and supported, especially my mum. I told him I would love for him to be there, but that Jenna and her kids were not invited. He gave me an ultimatum: either they all come, or he doesn't come at all. I was heartbroken. I've always hoped deep down that one day he'd put me first again, that for once he'd show up for me the way a father should. But instead he's choosing a woman and 2 kids who have never really cared about me over his only daughter's wedding. I told him I was sorry he felt that way, and I hoped he'd change his mind. That was 2 weeks ago. He hasn't spoken to me since, and now other family members are weighing in. Some are on my side saying it's my day and I have every right to invite who I want. Others are telling me I should have just sucked it up and included Jenna and her kids to avoid this mess. They say I'm clinging to old wounds and need to move on, that I'm being stubborn and causing unnecessary drama over people who would have just sat quietly and not made a scene. My fiancé supports me 100%, and so does my mum. But now as the wedding gets closer, I'm starting to feel conflicted. Part of me wonders if I am being the a-hole. Did I let my emotions override what could have been a chance to finally mend fences? Should I have just included them to keep the peace? I don't want to regret this later, but I also don't want to cave and feel like I'm betraying myself and my mom. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to invite my dad's wife and her kids to my wedding, even though it means he won't? Come? Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my sister the college fund my grandparents left for me? I, 24F, recently graduated college with a degree in civil engineering. I'm working full-time now, living on my own, and I've just finished paying off the last bit of my student loans. All thanks to a college fund my late grandparents left for me. For context, I come from a lower middle-class family. My parents, Mom 52F, Dad 54M, did what they could, but finances were always tight growing up. My younger sister, Ashley 18F, is very different from me. She's bubbly, outgoing, and admittedly she's always been the favorite in the family, but not in an evil way, but she's definitely the golden child. Growing up, it felt like I was the one expected to be independent, responsible, and low maintenance, while Ashley got most of the attention and leeway. Our grandparents, Mom's parents, were very close to me. I spent a lot of time with them, weekends, holidays, school breaks. I helped them around the house and was their unofficial tech support, caregiver, and companion. They lived modestly, but they were incredibly loving and wise. Before they passed, within a year of each other when I was 17, they set up a college, fund specifically for me. It was in a trust managed by an attorney. I wasn't allowed to touch it until I turned 18, and it was to be used solely for education-related expenses. At the time, Ashley was only 11, and no mention was made of a fund for her. When I asked about it back then, my mum told me not to worry and that something would be figured out when the time came. So I used the fund wisely. I went to a good state university, lived modestly, and worked part-time during the year. I graduated with some leftover money, about 15K, which I saved in a separate account for grad school or emergencies. I'm very proud of how I handled my finances and honored what my grandparents gave me. Here's where the drama begins. Ashley just got accepted into a private university, a prestigious liberal arts school that costs a fortune, around 60K per year. My parents didn't qualify for much financial aid, and they hadn't saved up nearly enough for her college. She applied without even talking to them about the costs because she was confident it would work out somehow. Last month, my mum called me and asked if I still had any of the college fund left. I said yes, and she asked if I'd be willing to give it to Ashley to help cover her first year, since we're all family and you already graduated. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She said that since my grandparents hadn't left a separate fund for Ashley, it was only fair that I help her out. I reminded her that the fund was specifically left for me by people who are no longer alive to defend their wishes. My mom said, "Your grandparents wouldn't have wanted Ashley to struggle when you have extra." I told her that assuming someone's intentions after they've passed is risky, especially when they literally specified who the money was for. A few hours later, I got a long text from Ashley. She was hurt that I wasn't willing to share and accused me of gatekeeping money that could change her life. She said she was always there for me emotionally and that I was being selfish. I reminded her that I worked hard, lived frugally, and didn't choose a school way out of budget. She left me unread. Since then, things have spiraled. My parents are cold toward me. My dad said I'm choosing money over family, and my mom keeps saying things like, "We never thought you'd turn out to be so ungrateful." I feel like I'm being punished for planning ahead and being the responsible one. Even some extended family have chimed in. A cousin messaged me saying, "A few grand won't kill you," and that I should support my sister's dreams. But here's the thing. If I give her this money now, what happens next year and the year after? That 15K isn't going to last long at an expensive school. And what if I want to go back for my master's or buy a house? Also, Ashley has options. She could go to the perfectly good state school nearby that offered her a partial scholarship, but she says she'd be miserable there because none of her friends are going. She's prioritizing prestige over practicality and expecting me to pay for it. A part of me feels guilty. I know college is expensive, I know Ashley is young and idealistic, but I can't help but feel like this is just another example of our family expecting me to give and give, while Ashley floats through life with backup plans that involve me. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to give my sister the leftover college fund money, even though it means she might not get to go to her dream school? Am I the a-hole for taking my mum to court after she gave my college fund to my stepbrother, 18F, graduated high school last year and was accepted into my dream university? I worked hard all throughout school, top 5% of my class, multiple extracurriculars, part-time jobs, and I got into a great but expensive out-of-state college. My dad passed away when I was 8. He had a life insurance policy and a small inheritance he left in a trust specifically for me. The total amount was around $75,000. That money was put aside for college, and until recently I thought it was safe. My mom remarried when I was 10 to a man named Greg. Greg has a son, Jason, 19 mem, who's only a year older than me. We were never super close. He always had this entitled attitude. He barely passed high school, constantly got into trouble, and never worked a job for more than a month. Jason decided not to go to college. He took a gap year that turned into him sitting around playing video games while occasionally working for Greg's construction company. Cut to this past January. I was getting all my financial aid stuff finalized and went to my mom to ask about the process for accessing the college fund. She got weirdly quiet and said we needed to talk. That's when she told me the fund was gone. All of it. At first I thought she meant it had been mismanaged or lost in a market crash. But no. She said, and I quote, "We felt it was only fair to use it to help Jason get on his feet." Apparently Jason wanted to start his own business, a gaming lounge in town. My mum and Greg decided to loan him the entire $75,000 to fund it, without telling me, without asking. She said, "It's all family now, and Jason needed the opportunity. You're smart. You'll get scholarships." I did get some aid, but not nearly enough to cover tuition, housing, and books. I now have to take out loans I never planned for, and might have to transfer to a cheaper school. I was devastated. I cried, I screamed, I felt betrayed. I asked for proof of the loan, repayment plan, anything. She said there wasn't a formal agreement, but Jason promised to pay it back. I moved in with my aunt 2 weeks later. My aunt, my dad's sister, was furious when she found out. She helped me contact a lawyer. We're now taking my mom to court to try to recover what we can from the trust. It's messy, because even though the money was intended for me, my mom was the trustee until I turned 18, and it seems she may have legally had access, though it's highly unethical. My mom is freaking out. She says I'm tearing the family apart, that I'm suing my own mother, and that I'm selfish for not supporting Jason's entrepreneurial spirit. Jason sent me a DM saying, "I don't understand how business works," and that it's already too late. The money's invested. Greg told me I'm ungrateful and being vindictive, and that Jason is like a real son to my mom now. That one cut deep. Some extended family is siding with me. Others are saying, it's just money, and I'm young, I'll recover. But this wasn't just money, it was my future. My dad worked hard and left that for me. It was the one thing I had left of him. So, am I the a-hole for taking my mom to court after she gave my college fund to my stepbrother without telling me? Am I the a-hole for not splitting the inheritance my grandfather left me, even though my cousins got nothing? I, 32 time, recently found myself at the center of a massive family drama that has completely blown up my relationship with most of my extended relatives. I never thought I'd be in this position, but here we are. My grandfather passed away 3 months ago. He was 87 and had been battling several health issues for years. He was a quiet, proud man, a Korean War veteran, a retired mechanic, and someone who didn't say much but paid close attention to everything. I was very close to him. After my parents divorced when I was a teenager, I lived with him for nearly 3 years. He was the only male figure in my life for a long time, and he treated me like a son. I'd visit him every weekend after I moved out, helped him with yard work, grocery shopping, doctor's appointments, etc. Even after I got married and had kids, I still made time for him every week. My cousins, not so much. Now my mom is one of 4 siblings. She has 2 sisters and 1 brother. Between them, there are 8 cousins, including me. Growing up, we all lived fairly close to Grandpa, but over the years, everyone sort of drifted. My cousins rarely visited him, even though some lived 15 minutes away. They never called, never helped, and only really showed up for holidays or when they needed something, like borrowing money or asking for help fixing their cars. Grandpa noticed. He never said anything openly, but he once told me, "It's easy to be around when things are good. You see who really shows up when you're not useful to them anymore." That stuck with me. So after he passed, we all gathered at the lawyer's office for the will reading. Everyone was expecting the estate, a modest house, some savings, and his prized tools and car collection, to be split equally among the grandkids. That's what the original will from 10 years ago said. But Grandpa updated his will 18 months before he died. In the new version, everything was left to me. Every dollar, every possession, the house, the car, the bank accounts, the tools, even the coin collection he spent years curating. The only thing left to the rest of the family was a brief letter he had written explaining his decision. In it, he wrote, "To my grandchildren, I love you all. But love is a two-way street. Over the past decade, only one of you has made the sea. Time for me, not out of obligation but out of love. My things will go to the one who stood by me when I needed it, not just when it was convenient. Do not be angry. Be better." When the lawyer read that, you could hear a pin drop. Then it was like someone lit a match. My uncle immediately stood up and started yelling, accusing me of manipulating Grandpa, twisting his mind when he was vulnerable. My aunt demanded to see proof that the will wasn't forged. One cousin burst into tears and said it wasn't fair, that I stole her future. Another called me a snake in the grass. I didn't say a word. I just sat there stunned. I hadn't known the full extent of Grandpa's new will. I thought maybe he'd left me the house or the tools, but not everything. Now 3 months later, my entire family has cut me off, except for my mum, who's been supportive but caught in the middle. My cousins have taken to social media to post vague rants about greedy family members and betrayal. One even messaged my wife and accused her of marrying into stolen wealth. It's insane. A few of them have reached out to me privately, saying they're struggling financially, one cousin's in debt, another is trying to go back to school, and that the right thing to do would be to split the inheritance evenly like it was originally supposed to be. They say Grandpa was old, confused, and I should honor what he would have wanted if he was in his right mind. But I keep going back to the letter. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was clear-headed. He made the choice. And while I do feel bad for my cousins, I don't feel guilty. They had years to show up. They just didn't. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to split the inheritance my grandfather left me, even though my cousins got nothing? Am I the a-hole for telling my half-brother the real reason he was left out of our father's will? I, 34M, recently lost my father, and the entire process of grieving has been complicated by years of buried family tension, most of it centered around my half-brother Caleb, 29M. Here's the background. My dad had me with his first wife, my mom. Then after their divorce, he married Caleb's mom when I was about 10. Caleb came along when I was 15. We were never super close, partly because of the age gap, but mostly because our home life got complicated. Caleb's mom, Tamara, never liked me. I could tell even as a kid. She'd complain to my dad whenever I was around that I was too loud, too lazy, too spoiled. She'd conveniently schedule family trips, the same weekends I was supposed to visit, or forget to pick me up. I once overheard her say I didn't marry a man with baggage. That baggage was me. My dad tried. He really did. He called. He drove to my school to have lunch with me. He showed up to every birthday, every game, even when Tamara made it nearly impossible. But the tension wore on him, Eventually, he stopped fighting her as hard. By the time I was 18, we only saw each other a few times a year. Years passed. I stayed close to Dad. Once I had my own car and place, he'd visit me without needing Tamara's approval. We had a good relationship. He helped me with my first down payment, met my wife, was there when my daughter was born. He loved Caleb too, but they were never as close. Caleb had picked up a lot of Tamara's attitude. Kind of cold, entitled. He barely called Dad, never helped when Dad got sick. Now Dad had a modest estate, a house, some savings, and an old watch that had been passed down from his grandfather. When he died, his lawyer read us the will. Everything was left to me. The house, the money, even the watch, not a cent for Caleb. I wasn't surprised. Dad told me months earlier that he wanted to leave everything to me, since I had a family and had been there for him. I told him I'd be fine with splitting things, but he said, "You earned it." Caleb and Tamara pushed me away for years. When the will was read, Caleb exploded, called me a manipulative, greedy, conniving jerk. He accused me of poisoning. Dad against him. Tamara showed up at my house 2 days later, demanding I give Caleb his fair share. I told her it wasn't up to me, it was Dad's choice. Then Caleb called me again and begged, literally. Said he needed the money. For student loans and medical bills. Said Dad would have wanted us both to have something. So I finally told him the truth. I said, "Caleb, Dad didn't leave you out by accident. He made that decision because he felt like you didn't want to be part of his life. You and your mom. Treated him like a burden. You only came around when you needed something. I was there for him, you weren't." He went completely silent. Then hung up. Now Tamara has started a smear campaign on Facebook, saying I'm slandering a grieving son and stealing from the family. Caleb hasn't spoken to me since, and mutual family members are split. Some say I was right to tell the truth. Others say I should have just let him believe Dad forgot or made a mistake, that it was cruel to rub salt in the wound. So, am I the a-hole for telling my half-brother the real reason our dad left him nothing? Am I the a-hole for trying to ban my fiancé's sister from our wedding because she wants to bring her service dog? I, 20 and M, am getting married to my fiancée, Rebecca, 28F, this summer. Rebecca has a sister, Lily, 25F, who's always been a little difficult. She's one of those people who tends to demand attention at every family gathering and has this habit of making everything about her. Rebecca loves her sister, but she's often frustrated by how much attention Lily needs. Now, here's the real issue. Lily has a service dog named Milo who she brings everywhere. I understand that service dogs are important and that they help people with legitimate medical needs, so I never questioned the need for the dog until now. Lily has told us that she plans to bring Milo to our wedding. At first, Rebecca and I thought she meant he would stay outside or in the back during the ceremony, but no. Lily wants Milo to be with her the whole time. The problem is that our wedding venue is in a small, intimate space, and it's not a pet-friendly venue. There are also allergies among some of the guests, including my grandmother, who has a severe allergy to dog dander. I told Rebecca I wasn't comfortable with a dog being inside the venue during the ceremony and reception, and she agreed. I explained to Lily that we couldn't have Milo there, and that it would be best if she arranged for someone to care for him during the event. She was outraged. She said that Milo is a part of her well-being and mental health, and that it was discriminatory to ask her to leave him behind. I told her that we weren't excluding her, but that there were concerns about allergies, the size of the venue, and the fact that there would be food and drink around that could cause issues with a dog. I even suggested she bring a service dog vest for Milo, so people would know he's not just a regular dog, but she was still upset. Rebecca has been caught in the middle. She thinks Lily should just leave Milo at home for one day, but she's afraid to confront her sister because they've had a rocky relationship. Lily has threatened to not come to the wedding at all if Milo can't come. Now I'm in a tough spot. I've been trying to be reasonable and understanding, but Lily isn't budging. She's been posting on social media about how ableist we're being and calling us selfish for not respecting her mental health needs. Some of my friends and family are backing me up, saying that it's a wedding and it's not appropriate to have a dog running around. Others are saying I'm being controlling and that I should just let Lily bring her dog. But I'm starting to feel like I'm stuck between trying to make a fair decision and keeping the peace with someone who has no intention of compromising. I'm really stressed out because I don't want this to be the thing that ruins our wedding, but I also don't want to cave on something I feel strongly about. I don't think it's unreasonable to have a dog-free wedding in a small venue. So, am I the a-hole for trying to ban my fiancé's sister from our wedding because she wants to bring her service dog? Am I the a-hole for calling off my wedding after finding out my fiancé sold my family's heirloom? I, 31M, am set to marry my fiancée, Emily, 29F, in just a couple of months. We've been together for 4 years, and I've always loved her. She's smart, funny, and kind. Or so I thought. Let me explain why this is so devastating for me. I come from a family with a long history of generational wealth. My great-grandfather was a successful businessman, and one of the things that's been passed down through the family for decades is a pocket watch that belonged to him. It's old, worth a small fortune, and incredibly sentimental. My dad gave it to me on my 18th birthday with the understanding that it would be passed down to my son someday, but I've kept it as a reminder of my family's legacy. I'm not the type to flaunt the watch. I've kept it in a safe deposit box for years because it means so much to me. I've never even worn it, really. It's just a piece of family history. A few weeks ago, I noticed that the watch was missing. I searched everywhere, thinking I had misplaced it. Finally, I confronted Emily, assuming it had just been an accident, and asked if she'd seen it. Her response was a punch to the gut. She admitted that she had sold it. She said it was worth a lot of money, and that she used the proceeds to pay off some debts. At first I thought I heard her wrong, but no. She had knowingly taken my family's heirloom and sold it without asking me, or even telling. She tried to justify it by saying that I wouldn't miss it, and that she needed the money more than I needed some old watch. She claimed that she was just trying to help us by easing some financial stress, but that didn't sit right with me. This was a family heirloom, not some random old object. It was irreplaceable. I was furious. I felt like she had completely violated my trust. This watch wasn't just an object. It was a symbol of my family's legacy, something my father had passed down to me. It was something I had planned on handing down to my son one day, and she had sold it without my permission, without even considering how much it meant to me. I asked her why she didn't consult me first, or at least mention it before she made the decision. She said she didn't think I'd care, that it was just a watch, and that it wasn't a big deal. The argument got ugly. She was upset that I was so dramatic over something so trivial. She said that I was too attached to material things, and that I should get over it. After a few days of processing, I made the decision to call off the wedding. I just couldn't move forward with someone who didn't respect my family's values or understand the weight of this heirloom. I told her I needed space to figure things out. Now I'm getting tons of messages from Emily's family and our mutual friends, saying that I'm overreacting and that I'm throwing away a great relationship over a material object. Some of them say I should forgive her, because she didn't mean any harm, and that people make mistakes. Emily herself says I'm being too harsh and that I'm holding a grudge over nothing, but I just can't get past it. This isn't just about the watch. It's about the lack of respect for me, for my family, and for the trust we should have in our relationship. How can I marry someone who thinks selling an irreplaceable family heirloom is no big deal? So, am I the a-hole for calling off my wedding after finding out my fiancé sold my family's heirloom? Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé that I don't want her sister at our wedding after she revealed she's pregnant with my best friend's baby? I, 30M, am getting married to Hannah, 28F, in a couple of months. We've been together for 5 years and things were going great. I thought we were on the same page about everything, family, kids, life plans, all of it. Until this bombshell dropped, and now I'm questioning everything. It all started last weekend at my bachelor party. It was a low-key evening. Just me, my best friend Ryan, 31M, and a couple of other guys. Ryan and I have been best friends for over a decade. He's like a brother to me, and I've always trusted him with everything, including being the best man at my wedding. The night was mostly drinking and catching up. Around midnight, Ryan got a phone call and stepped out for a while. When he came back in, he seemed off. He wasn't his usual energetic, joking self, and I could tell something was up. I asked him what was going on, but he said everything was fine. Later, I found out that the next day, Ryan came clean to me. He admitted that the night before he had slept with my fiancé's sister, Megan, 26F, and she's pregnant. I was shocked. I couldn't even process it at first. My best friend, the guy I considered a brother, had slept with my future sister-in-law, and now Megan was pregnant with his child. Ryan told me that he felt guilty about it, especially because Hannah didn't know, and that he wanted to tell me before it came out. He said he didn't want to keep this secret any longer. He also mentioned that Megan had asked him to keep it quiet for now, but he couldn't bear the thought of me finding out in a more public way. When I processed everything, I knew I had to talk to Hannah. I told her that I needed to talk to her about something serious. When I explained what had happened, she was devastated. She couldn't stop crying and said that she felt completely betrayed by both her sister and Ryan. She didn't know what to do. After the initial shock wore off, Hannah said she didn't want Megan anywhere near the wedding. I understood why. She'd feel that way. The betrayal was so deep. Hannah had trusted her sister, and now her sister was pregnant by the guy who was supposed to be my best man. But then, Megan reached out to me directly, saying that she was going through a lot of emotions and wasn't ready to tell anyone in the family. She begged me to let her come to the wedding, saying it wasn't her fault, and that she was just as confused and scared as everyone else. She insisted she wanted to try to fix things with Hannah and me, but she didn't want to be cut out of the family completely. Hannah, of course, was against this. She said there's no way her sister could be at the wedding after everything that had happened. She felt completely betrayed and thought it would be a huge disrespect to have Megan there. This is where I might have messed up. I told Hannah I agreed with her and that we should just let Megan know she couldn't attend. However, I also went a step further. I told Hannah that if Megan came to the wedding, I wouldn't. Hannah and I are now in a major standoff. She's hurt that I would even consider excluding Megan. She says I'm punishing her sister for something she didn't choose and that I should be more understanding of the situation. She says that as a family we should support Megan, even if the situation is complicated. I've been thinking about it a lot. Part of me feels like I'm being unreasonable by giving Hannah such an ultimatum, but the other part of me feels like I can't just ignore the gravity of the situation. This is supposed to be our wedding day, a celebration of our new life together. I'm not sure if I can trust anyone in my family anymore, so am I the a-hole for telling my fiancée that I don't want her sister at our wedding after she revealed she's pregnant with my best friend's baby? Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my inheritance with my siblings after my dad left it all to me? I, 27 Mem, recently went through a situation with my family that has caused a lot of tension, and I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable. Here's the backstory. My father passed away unexpectedly about 6 months ago. It was a huge shock to me and my siblings. My dad and I had always been close, and I spent a lot of time with him growing up, especially after my parents divorced when I was young. My siblings, Ben, 30, Sophia, 25F, and Claire, 23F, didn't have the same relationship with him. They always seemed to be more distant, and honestly, they never really made much effort to spend time with him. When he passed, we were all devastated, but the real shock came when the will was read. My dad had left everything to me, not just his savings and property, but also the family business that he built up from scratch over 30 years. I wasn't expecting it. I thought that the inheritance would be split equally among all of us, like it usually is in families. But no, my dad specifically left it all to me. There were no instructions about sharing it with my siblings, just a note that I should use it wisely, as it's meant to secure your future. I was stunned. I had no idea why he'd do this, especially given that my siblings were involved in his life in some way. They were aware of the family business, but none of them ever wanted to take the reins or show any interest in it. To be honest, I'm the one who worked the hardest alongside him, learning the ropes of the business and taking care of the day-to-day operations while my siblings did their own thing. When the will was read, my siblings were furious. Ben was the most vocal, claiming that the will was unfair. He said that he and the others should have gotten a share considering how much time and effort my dad spent with all of us growing up. Sophia was crying, saying that it wasn't right for me to hoard everything, and Claire accused me of getting special treatment for being the favorite child. They argued that because my dad had provided for me all my life, it was unfair for him to leave me everything. They said I should split the inheritance equally and give them their fair share. I was in a difficult spot. I didn't want to upset my siblings, but my dad's wishes were clear. The business, the property, the money, it was all meant for me. After talking it over with a lawyer, it became clear that I wasn't legally obligated to share anything with them. It was all left to me as a gift from my dad. Still, my siblings kept pushing, saying that I should be a decent person and give them some money. They even said I should split the family business with them, since they were family. Here's where I might have messed up. I told them I wasn't going to share the inheritance with them. I explained that my dad made his decision and I was going to respect it. I also told them that, in all honesty, they never showed interest in the business or in helping my dad when he needed it. The reality was that I was the one who put in the work, who stayed up late helping my dad with the financials, and who cared about the legacy of the business. Ben, especially, went ballistic. He said I was selfish and greedy for keeping everything for myself, and he accused me of trying to play the martyr because I was close to our dad. Sophia and Claire were upset, but didn't argue as much as Ben did. They said they understood, but that it still felt like I was leaving them out. Now there's a massive divide in the family. We don't talk much anymore, and my siblings have said that they're disappointed in me for not being more generous. My mom has sided with me, saying that my dad's decision was his to make, and that I shouldn't feel obligated to share the inheritance if I don't want to. But my cousins and some extended family have said that I should just do the right thing and give them a portion of the inheritance. Honestly, I've been second-guessing myself. I've spent so much time working for this business and making sure my dad's legacy lives on, and I don't know how to navigate the guilt I feel. I can't help but think that maybe I should share a little to keep the peace, but at the same time, I feel like my dad's decision should stand. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to share my inheritance with my siblings after my dad left it all to me? Am I the a-hole for proposing to my girlfriend on a family trip and stealing the spotlight from my brother's big news? I, 26M, have been dating my girlfriend Jenna, 25F, for almost 4 years. We've been solid from the start. She's my best friend, the love of my life, and someone who's been by my side through a lot of tough times. I've been planning to propose for a while now, and I finally bought the ring a few months ago. My family planned a big vacation to the mountains, a sort of family reunion getaway with my parents, my older brother Liam, 30M, his wife Carla, 29F, and my younger sister, Maddie, 21F. We rented a large cabin and were supposed to spend a full week just relaxing, hiking, and enjoying each other's company. Before the trip, I talked to my mom and dad privately and told them I was thinking of proposing to Jenna while we were there, maybe on the last night during our group dinner. They were thrilled and super supportive. They even offered to help me set up something special. Well, that plan changed dramatically. 2 nights into the trip, Liam stood up at dinner and made an announcement. Carla is pregnant. Everyone was shocked and happy, of course. Lots of hugging, clapping, tears, the works. I congratulated them, of course, and honestly, I was happy for them. I really was. But then I decided to hold off on my proposal. I didn't want to make it seem like I was trying to compete with their announcement. So I pushed it back to the final night of the trip, after we had all gone hiking and had a nice dinner back at the cabin. It was just us. The fireplace was going and the mood was perfect. So I proposed. Jenna cried, said yes, and everyone clapped and hugged. It wasn't a big, flashy thing, just a family moment. Here's where it got weird. The next morning, Liam pulled me aside and told me he was pissed. He said I had stolen their moment and made the whole trip about me. He accused me of being self-centered and said it was disrespectful to propose during the same trip where they made their baby announcement. He said I could have waited until we got back home or done it on another trip. I told him I had planned to propose before they made their announcement and had even cleared it with Mom and Dad, but he didn't care. He said it was common sense to let someone else have the spotlight. especially with something like a pregnancy announcement. He even went as far as to say that Jenna and I were attention-seeking for going through with it. Now, Carla isn't speaking to Jenna, and Liam has been cold toward me ever since. My parents are trying to stay neutral, but admitted they were surprised at how angry Liam got. Maddie thinks Liam is being ridiculous and said there's no reason both announcements can't be celebrated. Jenna feels awful. She thought it was a beautiful moment and didn't expect this kind of reaction. She even asked me if we should have waited, and now I'm second-guessing everything. I genuinely didn't want to take away from Liam and Carla's news, but I also didn't think I was doing anything wrong by proposing on the last night, days after their announcement. So, am I the a-hole for proposing to my girlfriend on a family vacation and stealing the spotlight from my brother's pregnancy announcement? Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of my wedding after she showed up wearing a white dress and refused to change? I, 29F, got married last month to the love of my life, Eli, 31 Mem. We had been planning the wedding for over a year. Small. Venue, 80 guests, an outdoor garden ceremony, and everything was as close to perfect as we could hope for. But the one person who almost ruined it all was my older sister, Natalie, 33F. Let me give you some background. Natalie and I have always had a complicated relationship. We're very different people. She's loud, outspoken, always the center of attention, while I've always been quieter, more reserved. Growing up, Natalie was the pretty one, the one who everyone fawned over at family events. She has this knack for making everything about her, and while I've tried to let things slide over the years, I always knew she couldn't stand when the spotlight was on someone else. So when I got engaged, she was surprisingly supportive at first. She agreed to be my maid of honor and helped with planning, venue tours, dress shopping, organizing the bachelorette party. It felt like we were finally bonding like sisters should. But as the wedding got closer, her behavior started to change. She began criticizing everything. The color scheme, too muted, the menu, not allergy-friendly enough, and even my dress, a bit plain, don't you think? I chalked it up to stress or her usual dramatic flair and tried to ignore it. Then came the day of the wedding. Everything was going smoothly that morning. I was in the bridal suite with my mom and bridesmaids, sipping champagne and getting ready. That's when Natalie walked in, wearing a long white floor-length gown with lace and a train. Everyone froze. At first I thought it was a joke. I actually laughed and said, "Very funny, Nat, where's your real dress?" But she just blinked at me and said, "This is my dress. I thought it would be elegant for the occasion." I reminded her, gently, that I'd asked all the bridesmaids to wear a soft blush color and that obviously white was off limits. She waved me off and said, "Come on, it's not your exact shade of white. Besides, I look great in it, and I'm not changing." I was stunned. I told her this wasn't okay and that she needed to change immediately. I even offered one of the backup dresses we'd brought for emergencies, but she refused, flat out refused. She said I was overreacting, and that I should be confident enough in myself not to be threatened by someone else looking good. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was already nervous and emotional, and now my sister, my maid of honor, was standing there refusing to change out of what looked like a literal wedding dress. After a few minutes of going back and forth, I finally told her that if she didn't change, she was out of the wedding. I didn't want her walking down the aisle or standing next to me in a white dress. She looked offended, genuinely offended, and said, "Wow, I didn't realize you were so insecure." So I told her again, either she changes or she leaves. She left. She grabbed her bag and walked out without another word. She didn't attend the ceremony, didn't come to the reception, and hasn't spoken to me since. Of course, my family is now divided. My mum is on my side. She thinks Natalie acted like a drama queen. My dad, on the other hand, thinks I was too harsh and that I should have just let it go to keep the peace. Some aunts and cousins think it was petty bride behavior and that I let a dress ruin the day. A few even said it was classic sibling jealousy and that I shouldn't have made such a big deal out of it. But I don't know. It felt like a line was crossed. This wasn't an accident. She deliberately wore white, ignored the dress code, and made my wedding day about her. Still, I keep wondering if I overreacted. Should I have just ignored it? Was it worth the fallout? So am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of my wedding for wearing a white dress and refusing to change? Am I the a-hole for kicking my roommate out after she secretly read my journal and told others about it? I, 24F, live with my college friend Maya, 24F. We've been roommates for almost 2 years. We met sophomore year, got along really well, and eventually decided to move into a 2-bedroom apartment after graduation. At first, things were great. We had similar schedules, shared chores, and even hung out together on weekends. But over the last 6 months, things started to shift. Maya started acting off. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about my job. I work from home, she works in an office. Roll her eyes when I talked about my boyfriend, Ethan, and would constantly ask really personal questions about things I didn't feel like. Discussing, like my therapy, my family, or why I don't hang out with certain people anymore. It made me uncomfortable, but I brushed it off. I figured maybe she was going through something and didn't want to press. Now here's the important part. I keep a journal. It's not a Dear Diary type of thing, more like a mix of private thoughts, venting and processing my emotions. I don't talk about it much, and I usually keep it in my nightstand drawer hidden under some clothes. It's handwritten. No password protection or anything, just private by nature. One day a couple weeks ago, I came home and found Maya sitting at the kitchen table with this weird expression on her face. I said hi, and she barely responded. Later that night, I got a text from a mutual friend asking, "Is everything okay between you and Maya? She said you've been writing some stuff about her." I was confused. I hadn't told anyone about the journal. Then it hit me. I went straight to my room and checked the drawer. The journal was out of place and some of the pages were bent like someone had flipped through them carelessly. My heart sank. I confronted Maya right away. I asked if she had gone through my journal. She denied it at first, then got defensive, saying things like, "Well, maybe if you didn't write awful things about the people you live with, they wouldn't have to find out the hard way." I was stunned. I told her that it wasn't meant for anyone but me, that it's normal to vent in private and that she had no right to go through my things, let alone share them with others. She doubled down. She said if I had nothing to hide, then writing it down was pointless and that I needed to own up to what I wrote. I asked her who else she told, and she admitted she had shared parts of my journal with 2 mutual friends. That was the final straw. I told her she needed to move out. I gave her 30 days' notice per our lease agreement, and she flipped out. She called me dramatic, said I was punishing her for being honest, and told our friends that I was kicking her out over a journal. She's been trying to spin it like I'm the one being unreasonable, saying I'm too sensitive and need to grow up. Some of our mutual friends are on my side. They say Maya completely violated my privacy and crossed a massive boundary. Others are saying it's not that big a deal and that I should forgive and move on because roommates fight. Ethan supports me 100% and so do my parents. But I keep getting these texts from people saying, "You're blowing this out of proportion," and that I'm ruining a friendship over a mistake. But to me, it's not just a mistake. It was a deliberate invasion of privacy and a betrayal. If she had just read it and kept quiet, it still would have been bad. But the fact that she gossiped about it, that felt like a knife to the back. So, read it. Am I the a-hole for kicking my roommate out after she read my journal and told people what was in it?